The first time I ever heard about Logan was when my roommate brought up a picture of him and his friends on Facebook.
So the first time I saw Chan, I was walking out of my house from the parking deck, and I saw her in her blue pants and her leopard spotted shoes, and I thought she was really hot.
And was like, this guy is in our ward. Someone has to date him. I'm going on a mission. And I was like, oh, fine, I will.
And I was a little too nervous to go up and talk to her, so luckily I found out she was in my ward. So we met outside of our ward one time after an activity and started talking.
We got invited on a cabin trip up in Heber, and it was super snowy, so we had to snowmobile up there.
We had to get on a snowmobile and travel up to the cabin, and so obviously I liked her at this point, or thought she was cute, so I asked her to ride on my snowmobile.
And Logue asked me to ride on the back of his snowmobile.
She was getting onto someone else's snowmobile and gave me a look back and said sure. Hopped on my snowmobile, and we chatted all the whole time up at the cabin.
We just spent the weekend casually, not so coincidentally, beside each other, hanging out, laughing like crazy.
For the next couple months we hung out in our friend group. We had mutual friends, so we ended up seeing each other a lot, but never actually went on exclusive dates.
Logue asked me on our first date. I already had one scheduled for that night, so I had to reschedule that one because I really wanted to go out with him.
We went out to dinner, and then we went on a group date with a bunch of my friends.
We had a bonfire on the lake.
She was very easy to interact with, and we laughed a ton. We had a great time.
It was so much fun, and it was freezing cold, so of course we had to like kind of snuggle on the ice, and I was like, hey.
After that, I waited about 2 weeks to ask her out again. I wanted her, keep her on edge, not give her too much.
Our second date was just us, and we went to the chocolate.
We were able to just sit down and talk, and we just had a fun time. She was probably the most easy person I've ever talked to. We related really easily. We were able to just laugh and have a good time.
And also we had the Pazuki, and I loved sweets, so he touched my heart.
The next date we went on to, well, actually, a story.
For our third date, this is when it happened. There was another cabin trip that Logan didn't go on because he was busy or something. When we were at the cabin, we were having girl talk one night, and one of our friends, our mutual friend, was like, oh, I was just talking to Logan after your last date, and he said you might just be just friends.
By that point in time, I already knew that I really wanted to date her. I already knew that she was super fun, we got along really well.
I was like, no, we're not just friends, but I was like, just kept it to myself. I was like internally freaking out because I was so into this kid.
There was no other girls that I was interested in remotely that were as fun, cool, pretty, outgoing, smart as her.
And then on the way home from that trip, so I'm still freaking out, one of his best friends calls me and says, we're throwing a surprise party for Logan, and we want you to be the one to get him there.
Some of my friends threw a surprise birthday party for me that I found out from someone in our ward.
And so I'm thinking, oh great, this guy who thinks we're just friends thinks I'm in cahoots with his best friends planning a party, and that I think that I have the power to get him there. I was like, I said I couldn't do it. I was like, no way. But they convinced me to do it, and so I did it, so I thought smoothly.
I tricked Chandler, and they had Chandler bring me to the party, and I acted like I didn't know what was going on, but I really knew everything. And so when Chandler came to pull me to the party, she lied to me and said that she was bringing me to one of her friends' parties.
I told him we were going to my friend's birthday party at the village, not his own birthday party, because I couldn't fully lie to him. I felt bad.
And so I played along, said I couldn't go, and finally she said, what do I have to do to make you to go with me? And I said, if you make me dinner, I will go with you. So she said, deal.
Come to find out, Logan knew about the surprise party and was loving the fact that I was so uncomfortable. He knew exactly what I was doing.
So we went to the party, I found out it was my surprise party and didn't tell her that I knew.
Coerced me into making him dinner to go.
And then a few days later she made me dinner.
So because I'm a woman of my word, I had to make Logan dinner. So I made him dinner the next night. He considers that a date. I don't consider it a date in the grand scheme of things.
And she didn't find out until after we started dating that I actually had set that up and planned that the whole time, so it was great.
Beginning of February, we kind of didn't talk very much, and I was like, okay, well, I guess that was fun while it lasted. But then he called me the night before Valentine's Day and asked me out for Valentine's Day.
I knew she was probably gonna have plans already, but I called her anyways and asked her out, see if she'd come. Very forward, I know.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this just like flipped again. Now we're going out for Valentine's, but we just went to this literal shack of a
podunk, Mexican, not even restaurant.
I'm pretty sure there was no health code.
So I brought a candle, very romantic.
This is so cheesy, so him, and I loved it.
And then after that we went up to Rock Canyon Park and just sat and talked for like 2 hours, and it was super fun.
When it got too cold, we came back to my apartment, and that's where Logan started to linger.
She lingered at the door, in the doorway, wouldn't close the door.
And I knew what his agenda was. He was outside my door. I had already told him what a good night it was, how fun it was. And so I took the initiative and just closed the door back.
So she eventually closed the door and we talked a little bit more.
Outside my apartment, we had our first kiss. The next time I saw Logan, he asked me if I wanted to go get con cones with him. Of course I did. And then we went to a park.
She took me to this park. We got out of the car and we walked around for a little bit and just joked around with each other. But eventually as we were walking, I put the moves on her and held her hand. This whole time I'm thinking, okay, I really like her. I know I want to date her exclusively, but how do I go about asking it? I ended up chickening out at the park.
We got back to my apartment. We were walking up the stairs, and he stopped me on the 3rd floor.
We make it up 2 flights of stairs, my heart's pounding, and she's a few stairs ahead of me, and I say, Chan, wait, hold on, there's something I need to ask you. Come back down.
He was like, Chandler, I know you're dating. Like, you go on a lot of dates with other people, but I just want you to know that I only want to go on dates with you.
All I said was, I know I don't want to date anyone else.
And that's where I met, and I want to be exclusive, and I just wanted you to know, like, you don't have to decide, but I just wanted you to know.
She looked at me and she goes, okay. And we walked up.
And I was honestly shocked because I had been so, like, up and down with friends being like, oh, you're just friends, and then not feeling that way. So I was so shocked, but so happy.
So I don't know if she got the message that I wanted to exclusively date her, because she didn't say it back to me, I don't think. But from that point, we were both exclusive.
Logan and I dated for about 10 months.
So we dated 10 months. About.
Yeah, we dated for 10 months before we got engaged, and during those months, we were just like loving spending time together. We cooked our meals together, we went on road trips, we went to California, to St. George, to North Carolina, to Georgia, and we ate Jamba Juice too much. We went to Costa Vida way too much, and we just loved being together. Just anything when we weren't at school or at work, we were together.
Best 10 months of my life up until this point. We had so much fun together, everything was so normal and natural, and I knew I wanted to marry her. So we talked about it, everything felt right, seemed right, so we went ring shopping, and I ended up getting the ring, and she left finals earlier than I did. I left on the last day, and so while she was in North Carolina, I was getting everything ready for the engagement process.
Logan and I had talked about getting married for a little while, and we had gone and looked at rings, and I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when.
So on the last 2 days of finals, I went with one of my friends, Haley, and we went to Michael's and got Russian nesting boxes, so 8 boxes that fit inside of each other. Within the smallest box, I had the ring box.
He was visiting for Christmas for a couple days.
And the last day before I was leaving back home for Christmas, we went and took a romantic walk on the beach. And we were going to do a gift exchange, unbeknownst to her.
And I was like, okay, we're getting engaged.
So we get to the beach. I selected a pier with her dad that morning while she was sleeping. And we went out to it. Sat underneath the pier, it was kind of cold.
But then he brought out this big box, and it was kind of heavy, so I was like, okay, we're not getting engaged.
I give her my gift. She kneels on the ground to open up the box. And as soon as she takes off the first lid, she realizes there's another gift inside there. So she looks at me a little confused.
And when I was opening, it was like a box inside of a box inside of a box. And so I was like, okay, we're getting engaged.
Told her, just like egged her on, told her to keep going. So she goes opening up box after box, pulling them out, opening them up, realizing that there's a smaller box inside. And she looks at me about the 5th box and says, "This is a little obnoxious," which I thought was pretty funny. So she keeps going and she gets down to the last box, which is not wrapped and it's a white box.
And then the very last box was little, and it was a ring box, and when I opened it, it was empty.
So she sets it on the ground, looks up at me and says,
"You're mean, like why would you do that?"
So she looked up at me and said, "Open it." I said, "No, you open it." At this point, I'm pretty sure she realized it was a ring box. So she opens it, and to her dismay, there was no ring inside this ring box. And she looked at me like mad. She did this with her hands. And that's when I knelt down and she stood up and I pulled out another ring box and proposed.
But then he just pulled it out of his pocket and got down on his knee, said some nice things, and asked me to marry him, and I was like, yes, of course.
Chandler is honestly the most amazing person I've ever met. She is not only very fun and outgoing and a real crowd pleaser, but she's also very sincere, very smart, very personable, and very aware and in tune with what people need.
I love Logan because he's honestly the greatest man in the whole world. He is kind to everyone, he works harder than anyone I know, and he treats me like a queen.
She's always treated me in our relationship exactly how I want to be treated. She's been very kind to me, sweet to me, fun. We vibe very, very well. We enjoy a lot of the same things.
He is so genuine and so sincere, as well as being so funny and so likable, and I think he is just Mr. Cool.
Chandler's just my best friend, the best person I know, and I'm really, really excited to be married to her for forever and spend an eternity with her.
I cannot wait to spend forever with him. Forever has never seemed so short than when I think about spending it with Logan, because I'm so excited to become a Greenberg.
So it's a lot easier to say this to your face, obviously, than on camera, but I just want to say that I'm so grateful to have you in my life. You really have been the biggest blessing ever to me. You've been so kind and patient and helpful to make it through this past couple years of school and just life. You've been the best companion, best friend I ever could have asked for.
Logan, I can't wait for our lifetime of happiness. I love you so much, and I can't wait to be your wife.
You've been so kind and loving and been such a good example of Christ to me in my life. So compassionate, and I'm just very grateful for you. And I'm so excited to have the most fun-loving, happy, great companion, person, wife ever. So I love you, Chan, and I'm so excited to spend eternity with you.
It's in the rules we get to choose, and I choose you.